images. They're the visual part of visual novels. So by my calculations, it's at least 50% as important as the novel part. Now we could go line by line through the Ren'py image documentation, meticulously learning the ins and outs of how Ren'py displays images, followed by like a laundry list of property values. Or I can give you a little something to make that easier. The Ren'py Action Editor. Honestly, no joke, it is the most important tool at my disposal. I've never made a game without it, and it's the best way to learn the absolute limits of what you can do using images in Ren'py. So follow the link below in the comments, press the green code button, and download zip. Then uncompress it, then just plop it right in your game folder, same folder as script.rpy. Now this puppy works right out of the box. Just press Shift P on any screen in your game, and it'll load right up. But I'm gonna make a couple quality of life suggestions that will make this go a lot smoother. First, you're gonna wanna change the horizontal images in the slider folder so they are transparent, and the horizontal hover images so they're white with a black border but at 40% opacity. And the horizontal hover images so they're white with a black border but at 40% capacity, let's say. We do that so that the bars are gonna be completely transparent until we hover over them when we need them. Now I'm gonna open up our sample game, sample script, and we're gonna add a line of code right under label start here. Camera, perspective true. This is gonna unlock 3D perspectives for us, and you do not even know how much this is gonna change your life right now. Now we're gonna go up into this option thing up here on the upper left, and we're just gonna change some values around. So number one, we wanna hide that camera icon. So if you check right now, that camera thing's gone. It honestly just kind of gets in the way so you can't see things quite as well. Next, you're going to want to go down to the int range of property bar. Int ranges are values that are based off of pixel data. I generally like to have these a little bit bigger than 1500 because that's just like slightly larger than screen size. So let's change that value to 2000. Next, we have the float range of the property bar. Float values are based off of percentage of the screen shown at any given time. And I don't think you really need to go much more than 2 times the size of the screen. So 2.0 is fine to me. And the time range of the property bar, we're not going to use that this time, but I like to set it for 3.0 just to, make sure animations are no longer than 3 seconds long. Now sit back and admire your handiwork. That is a fine, quality looking tool right there. The Action Editor is going to let us play with Ren'py's native camera by clicking Camera, as well as each of the individual image assets currently displayed on the screen. For now, let's just manipulate Eileen. First, we're going to jump down to Zoom Crop. We're going to want to change the character size to fit the screen the way we want to, so we can change its scale along the x-axis with X zoom. So you'll see how, she's squashed and stretched there. Along the y-axis with Y zoom. So you can see you're getting, shorter and taller there. And we can manipulate both of them at the same time with just the general zoom. And this is what we're going to use to make characters look bigger and smaller for now. You can use crop X, Y, W, and H to crop in on the image in Engine. Crop a little bit off of the edge there, a little bit off of her head there. And of course, if you don't want to mess around with the slider values, you can always press the number on the left-hand side there, and you can type the value in on your own. Now that we have Eileen scaled properly, let's go back to child position. Here we can adjust the X position, cool, Y position, neat, Z position, nice, and rotation, which only lets you rotate around the center of an image, but you can still see how this is useful. Now that Z position might have seemed like another zoom feature, but you'd be wrong. What's happening is that because we turned on the camera perspective, we've allowed Ren'py to display images in 3D. By default, the camera is placed half the width of the screen away from Z position 0, which is why she disappears like right around here. As a scene, the background image is always going to be displayed as behind Eileen, so you can have a pretty deep 3D area we can play around with. Moving on to the anchor offset category, you'd think these are all variations of X position and Y position, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Let's use a corkboard to demonstrate what I mean. The values X anchor and Y anchor refer to where on the image we're going to stick this pin. 0.5 anchor refers to the middle, and 1.0 Y anchor refers to the bottom. So that's where that pin's going to go. Then, where we stick the pin on the screen is referenced with X position and Y position. Then X offset and Y offset refer to how far away from the pin that image can go. Now we're going to get into the 3D stuff, but I just want to make it super clear. This is all still really new. In the latest version that's up there, the Z positioning is broken. So I'm reverting to a build that I downloaded 22 days ago. But probably by the time you've seen this video, it's gone through like several other different versions. So not everything that you're going to see here is going to line up one-to-one. But the general broad strokes of everything, they're going to stay pretty much the same. The important thing is for you to understand how crazy cool this 3D stuff is going to be. Check this out. So this is how the old Ren'py Action Editor looked. It's already changed a lot since the latest version. When we go down to 3D Matrix, this should probably be working the same as whatever version you're going to be using right now. Offset X and offset Y work, kind of the same way you'd expect. When you use offset Z, you can bring Eileen closer or farther away to the camera. Then rotate X, Y, or Z to rotate it along its center along those axes. And the image actually rotates in 3D space. Look at that. Now let's reset it, and we're going to do a Z position change. So move it a little bit further back, and then do the rotations again. Now the image is rotating around an axis like it's attached to a stick. When we start learning how to animate, the difference between these two actions and motion is going to make a huge difference in terms of how you want to handle a character in a scene. But the important part that you need to know is that we can rotate a character anywhere along space that you want to. But for now, just understand that there are a lot of different ways that we can rotate and move a character in 3D space in Ren'py. Now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to move Eileen around into an interesting pose. So there we go. I'm going to press clipboard to put all these values in my clipboard. Then I'm going to highlight the character that I was just manipulating and press Control V. And that's going to bring all these values here into my script. I'm just going to take a few seconds to clean this up so you can see what we're looking at here. So most of the exported settings are going to export as image properties. You'll get a value like X position followed by a number value and then a space or a line break. Now technically every image has a value associated with one of these properties, and it's only when the user enters a value to replace it that it changes. So that means if I want to keep all these values the same, except for maybe X position on my next line of dialogue, all I'll need to do is go in here and move it left to 700. File save. There's where she is for her first line of dialogue, and there she is for the second. Now, even though she shrunk down a little bit, that's just the result of the X position here. All the other values have stayed the same since the last time. In contrast, if we went back and we said hide Eileen before we showed the next one, now when we press to continue, all the 3D transforms, the Y positions, all those things are reset to their defaults. So when you hide the image and show it again, Ren'py resets those values to the default. Now there are some special attributes. Under Show Eileen Happy, you'll see that the Ren'py Action Editor by default uses this thing subpixel true. That's mostly just important for animation, so don't worry about it, but it's a nice thing to have in there. And finally, you can see these matrix transforms. The offset matrix is really just made of 3 values, and so is rotate matrix. Each of those values correlating with the X, Y, and Z values accordingly. I mean, this looks complicated, but you've seen it in action here in the Action Editor. This is the X value here, this is the Y value, and this is the Z value. So those 3 values put together are going to make up the matrix in that attribute. So let's go back to the base image and the latest version of the Action Editor, and we'll discuss the last section here and my favorite, effects. So let's say you wanted to take a character but make them a ghost, but it's only for like a scene and you don't want to make a whole new character sprite. Using effects, we can make changes to the character sprite directly in Engine. Alpha lets you adjust the transparency of an image. Additive lets you treat the image like an additive color blending channel on the top of the image. Basically, it lets you use an asset to make everything behind it glow. This is best for assets that generate light like sparkles and stuff. You can also blur an object. These are all properties that can be applied to the image, but the rest of the effects will be using matrix color effects. You can change the hue, brightness, saturation, and contrast to the image, and you can even invert the colors. Get your image the way you want it to look, press clipboard, and you'll see matrix color looks a lot like those matrix transforms, just with, 1 value each. Now let's say you wanted these effects applied to the whole screen. We'll just click on the camera, manipulate all these values, press clipboard, and blam. So in the code, that looks pretty similar to how the images are displayed. We're just using the label camera instead of show image or scene image. And hey, if we look back at that code we put right below label start, you can see perspective true is just another property the camera has. So now you should have a pretty good grasp on properties and transforms, right? Good, because there's one more property that's really cool One of my favorites, but the Ren'py Action Editor can't quite pull it off on its own. But you can. You can also press the like and subscribe buttons below. Is that a strong enough hint? You gonna do it? Tint Matrix is one of my favorite effects to apply to an image. It lets you take a color and then tint your image with that color. You need to write this one on your own. Under Matrix Color, you're gonna write down Tint Matrix, and in parentheses and in quotation marks, you're gonna put down a hexadecimal value. So pop open an online hex code color picker. I use htmlcolorcodes.com. Now let's try some values. If you put white into the tint matrix, number FFFFFF, you'll see the image doesn't change at all. That's because tinting a color just means you're taking a color and making the image darker with it. So take black and hex values, 0000000, and you'll see the image is black. Now let's pick a color. Let's say red, FF0000, and wow, that image gets red. Now here's the neat part. So let's say we wanted to give this whole cave a different tone to it. Maybe instead of these nice oranges, we wanted it to look darker with some cool, dark blues. So with our hex color picker, let's find a blue that's a little darker, but also like a little less saturated. Right there. Then apply that tint matrix color directly to the camera in a separate line of code. And hey, that's looking pretty good on Eileen, but the background needs a bit of work. So we'll go to the Action Editor, go directly into background, and adjust these values as needed to make it fit better in the scene. And we'll give Eileen a little bit of adjustment too. There, we just changed the whole color tone of the scene. Now normally I wouldn't recommend applying that tint directly to the camera just because whenever we do anything involving the Action Editor, it's going to turn that tint matrix off. Even if we put it in its own new line of code, so it's still going to keep those attributes from before, it's not going to keep the tint matrix. That one's just going to override the previous attributes. I suggest using the camera tint just so you can fiddle with the other matrix values in Action Editor. And then when you get them to a place where you like them, include tint matrix in the long string of code here with the little asterisk. Set that at the beginning of your scene so that you can get all the colors right. And now you have a little block of code that's just going to set the colors for this scene. Save these predefined values with their own labels like here, so you can call them whenever you need them. The Ren'py Action Editor is an amazing tool to manipulate and preview images, but Ren'py has a few more tricks up its sleeve. And in a future video, I'm going to be showing you a few more tools that Ren'py has that